So, Jeff, what I'm picturing, though, is Abby in a cereal costume singing Journey, Don't Stop Believing.
Yeah.
I hope Lisa Vanderpump never listens to our podcast because we just crushed her. I got Gene Simmons in my head from Kiss. He always wore those boots to his knees. There was never a time that one Smullen brother wasn't asked to leave the game.
It's great to be with all of you this morning for our Worthington Schools podcast, Worth the Journey. My name is Angie Adrian, and I get to serve Worthington Schools as the Assistant Superintendent of Academics.
And I'm Jeff Maddox. I am the Director of Human Resources for the Worthington Schools.
Together, we are your hosts for the podcast and certainly appreciate you taking the time to hear the stories of those that we get to work alongside of in Worthington Schools. We are a district of about 11,000 students and 1,400 staff members. We really take pride in building really strong relationships with others, which truly impacts our culture. Culture makes people really understand each other better. And if we understand each other better, it's really a lot more fun to work together. It takes intentional effort for all of us to build these relationships. And one way that we do that in Worthington Schools is through storytelling. Did you know that storytelling triggers the brain that responds then that affects both our mental and physical makeups?
I do know that because I've heard you read this before. So now I remember.
Hey, stories are proven to motivate and change minds. Worth the Journey is a podcast with the purpose of just that. To share the stories of the awesome humans that we get to work alongside of each and every day in Worthington Schools. Everyone has a story to tell, but not everyone has someone to listen to it. So thanks for taking the time to listen to our podcast today. And let's talk middle school.
That's my favorite.
Do you remember middle school?
Absolutely, I do. Proud student and graduate of Worthing Way. Go Wildcats.
Nice.
Also a long-time middle school principal.
Well, I grew up in Pickerington, so, I was a middle school tiger. I do remember middle school. Tough time growing up, really. Starting to really figure out who you are as a person. We're just a little, not quite as mature maybe as we should be, but rightfully so. We're in middle school, right? And we have teachers who work with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade and choose to do that.
That's awesome. Because
we love it.
It is.
It's a crucial time.
People talk about the middle school years all the time, but when you get into a space, and this as a former middle school principal, when you get into a space of a middle school staff, these folks genuinely
care.
Work and love working with that age group. In all of our spaces, we've got an incredible group of middle school staff that show up every day and make a difference.
When I first started teaching, I taught at the high school level. Then became a high school assistant principal, high school principal, and never in a million years did I think I would be a middle school principal. So had the opportunity to be a middle school principal, and I stayed for 8 years. Thought maybe after the first couple weeks I was done. Is there another position in the district and then fell in love with the teachers and the students at the middle school level. And I think what they did for me was help me just learn how to have fun and learn how to just be and really enjoy my work, because working with our students and staff was definitely one of the best times for me.
It does really focus you on that whole child concept. Those middle school years, we really work hard in our district to try to give multiple experiences to our students. The staff really drives those experiences and really allows the students to discover themselves before they move on to the high school.
And first time for overnight camp at the middle school.
Wow.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Okay, so middle school math.
I'll go first on this one, but I do need to take this opportunity to send out a sincere apology to all of my middle school math teachers. They were incredible human beings that were kind and compassionate and patient. And I need to give a shout out to Kim Knubel in 7th grade at Worthing Way Middle School. She was my student teacher and then grew to be the long-term sub, because for those who know Nancy Massman was my 7th grade middle school math teacher. She left on maternity leave, and Kim took that class over and did a phenomenal job, but was very patient with me.
One of the things that I remember that isn't a best practice anymore in how we teach math, but I just remember that game called Around the World.
I love that game.
You did?
I love it.
Oh, man. I'm a little bit of a slower processor, so typically I was one of the first ones that had to take a seat. I just couldn't get out my math facts as quickly as others in my classroom could.
In hindsight, I don't know if I was a fast thinker or the loudest speaker. Probably won a lot of those competitions one-on-one because I said it louder and then probably drowned out the person who was sitting beside me.
Yeah, and that was always a way that we got extra points, that we could receive extra points was around the world. Again, not a practice that we use today, but that's my memory. So enough of that. With us, we have a second-year teacher. Our recent series is interviewing some of our new teachers to talk about what it was like to come to Worthington. And Abby Smullen is with us today, and she is in her second year of teaching in Worthington School. So Abby, welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
It's good to have you. Abby, tell us a little bit about coming to Worthington Schools, a little bit about your background.
I graduated from Worthington Kilbourne. I went to Granby and McCord. When I applied for college in high school, I never questioned what I was going to do. I just knew I was going to do middle school education, which I feel like a lot of people thought I was crazy for, like, that's dead set, like what I wanted to do. But it's because I feel like middle school, like especially at McCord, was such like a moving time. And I realized like how middle school is such a developmental part of everyone's life. I grew up in Worthington. My dad and his family grew up in Worthington. We're a pretty Worthington-bound family. I knew that I wanted to come back to Worthington, and I did everything in my power to get a job in
And
Worthington.
you were a student at Worthington Kilbourne High School?
Yes.
Yep. And you graduated when?
2018.
Did you enter Miami knowing right out of the gate you wanted to be a teacher?
Yeah. I applied to Miami middle childhood education with focuses in math and English, and I stuck through it the entire time, never changed. I actually saw an ad that Worthington was like looking into hiring, and it was November. So I reached out to my aunt who works in the district, and she was like, yeah, definitely like get your foot in the door and just email Jeff Maddox. And I was like, okay. We did a screener, and that was the first time I've ever interviewed with anyone, and it was virtual. I was so nervous.
No, you did a great job. You're sitting here.
My field experience was virtual. Like I did online tutoring and stuff, and that's kind of how I had to get that experience.
So Abby brought up that she came across a posting in November. For those who are listening and going, how in the world are you posting jobs in November? We actually, on August 1st, we post anticipated openings in elementary, middle school, high school, and special ed. And it's our way to be able to attract candidates who are interested in working in Worthington the following school year. And then it affords us the opportunity to reach out and then begin screening them. For those who are listening, that's how we do that. But that actually begins on August 1st. So we've already posted this school year for next school year. And those interview screeners have already started for next school year.
You're intentional about that because in Worthington Schools, we want the best candidates. And we're lucky to have one sitting with us today.
Yeah, we definitely lucked out.
Oh, Thank you.
So Abby, tell us about your first year experience at McCord.
So especially during student teaching, while I was doing the teaching, I had somebody that was like, this is what we're going to do today. How do you feel about changing this up? Someone that pretty much guided me through the entire process. So I felt rather confident, but it was when I got the job and was sitting in the summer, it was like, oh my goodness, like this is all me now. I don't have someone to be able to do that.
This is getting real.
Yeah. I feel like the first semester I lived with like imposter syndrome for sure. Like I was like, I can't believe they have to listen to me. Like I feel like I'm one of them. I think that was like a really moving part also because I realized that, yeah, while it's my own classroom and I am the leader in the classroom, I don't necessarily need to stop having somebody guide me. I mean, we always talk about in education how relationships are important. While they're important with students, I feel like they're really important with like your colleagues and stuff. It's like my coworker's been one of my best friends. My intervention specialist has become really good friends with me. And my mentor I utilized a lot. I got really close with my principal. Like I was just constantly asking questions and constantly utilizing like the other sixth grade English teacher for help. And so I never really ever felt like I was like doing it on my own. I felt like I was always with people. And I think that's comforting for new teachers to know that like it doesn't have to feel like a super lonely thing to utilize the people that are wanting to help, especially because I was also like one of the only new teachers at McCord. Yeah. I think a lot of people wanted to be there. And also I work with the sixth grade staff, which is a bunch of new faces, but like a lot of the seventh and eighth grade teachers there were my teachers because I was a student at McCord. So that was always nice to like have them for support if I needed them.
You went through a week-long new teacher orientation orientation week before becoming a new teacher in Worthington schools. And we just did that with our new teachers that are coming into this year. Is there anything that you remember about that new teacher orientation that really prepared you for the work that you get to do as a teacher?
I think the biggest takeaway was like having a new teacher class. I feel like I met a lot of people that I still talk to, and like we would catch up with each other like every few weeks. Like, how is your year going? What are you doing that's working well for you? Like I, once again, like felt I just like created relationships, and that was probably my biggest takeaway. I was able to create relationships with like you guys, feeling comfortable coming to the WEC like with questions and creating relationships with people at different schools that are doing completely different subjects and like different age levels and knowing what works for everyone.
One of the things that Jeff Maddox does on the day that he gets to be with new teachers is he takes all of our new teachers on a bus tour so they can see the neighborhoods that our students live in, just to understand the almost 20 square miles of Worthington schools. Do you remember that bus tour?
Yes. That actually was one of my favorite parts of orientation.
Was there anything that you grew up, but is there anything that surprised you about that bus tour when you were out?
I've always wanted to see the inside of Linworth. So when we were like able to go inside, I was so pumped because I've always wanted to see it. Yeah. That was really cool. I was really interested with that. Also, seeing Perry finished because Perry wasn't there when I was a student. I always knew about Phoenix, but being able to see like all the different schools that are part of that building, it was a really cool experience to see like the different opportunities that Worthington provides.
When Abby was talking about her first year and reflecting and highlighting all the important people in her life, I mean, it really spoke to the community that we really try to create right out of the gate in new teacher orientation that gets carried into the building, and then you have a community of people that you can lean on. One of the coolest things you said, and I need to highlight this because it is an important thing, and that is you said you asked a lot of questions. And I want everybody to understand, please ask questions. I always get nervous with people who act like they know it and act like they have it. I want to know and I want to hear from you. And if you have questions, please ask. And the cool thing is you felt that it was a culture and it was a safe space for you to be able to ask questions. And then you started to build that community based on all of those different people that you got to work with, which was really cool.
Sometimes I would be like, all right, I feel like I should probably be able to figure this out on my own. But then I was like, why would I try and figure it out on my own when I have so many people that know the answer? Just being able to like walk up and down the halls, like I would pop my head into my principal's office like quite frequently. And I'm like, I just have a quick question for you.
Because you're not the only new teacher ever in this profession in Worthington. What advice would you give? Because we have a new class coming in.
This is my first job out of college. So you're already kind of going through that changing period for yourself, graduating and then working. It was like, okay, like my life just like changed, flipped 180 in such a short amount of time, which I know everyone experiences out of college. But to just utilize it as like, know that it's a good thing. And like everyone I knew that was in education, like they care so much. And so being with people and hopefully finding a school that feels like home to you, just creating those relationships. I know that sounds like redundant, but I don't think I would be the teacher I am or enjoy my job as much as I do if I didn't feel like I like had a connection with everyone in my school.
What is it that you think is top priority for a new teacher coming in?
It was really important for me to be like totally vulnerable and honest with the families. Like when we had curriculum night and every single one of my periods, I was like, my name's Abby Smullen. I am a new teacher. I am learning right alongside with your kids. Like, I'm excited to have this experience with them. Like, they're new to middle school. I'm new to middle school. Like, I'm excited that we get to do like this together. And I think that honestly helped me from the bat because parents were so understanding with situations. Like there'd be times that I would have to email home in a positive way or a negative way. And like the parents were always receptive of the fact that like I was trying to figure out how to work the situation the best too. And I would be honest with them and say, do you have any advice for me on how to handle this situation? Is this something that you see? What have you done that works for you? Just be honest about that.
Parents know their children the best, right? So we're a team in that effort.
Right.
We work together to help educate and help raise the students that we get to work with.
And shout out to our parents.
Yeah, big shout out to our Worthington parents.
Huge shout out because we appreciate the support, but we also appreciate the parents recognizing we are going to have new teachers. And this is a journey, but that doesn't mean the learning isn't going to be phenomenal.
Right.
But it is a journey for our new teachers as well. Ange, when we kicked this thing off, we highlighted the math portion.
Yeah.
Abby is 4'9", language arts math. She teaches language arts for us. However, Abby, why don't you tell us about your math journey?
I'm assuming if new teachers are listening that you are going through the Ed TPA and all of the OAEs that you have to take to get your license. I had a hard time taking tests my entire education career. That was something that I was not strong in at all. Right before I started working in Worthington, I found out that I had to take a math OAE, even though I was teaching English. So I was studying every night after work for hours on calculus and algebra and geometry.
Yeah, I'd struggle if I had to go back and do that.
Yeah, it was anything you learn in math from grades 4 to 9. So I hadn't taken a math class since I graduated, and this is now August, and I'm trying to plan a school year, literature and reading and studying when I get home, all this math to get my license. I put that pressure on myself. That's when it turned into something, I'm going to pass the test. So if you're struggling with that, just knowing that hopefully you're in a district where you're supported. I was unbelievably supported during that time when I was going through that.
There were a lot of people in your life that supported you through that, right?
Tom Kazmarek was the most incredible help ever. We had lunch study time together, and he would come to McCord, and we would sit and study together and go through practice tests. He's probably one of the biggest reasons that I ended up passing that test, but also support from you and knowing that you weren't going to give up on me, and support from my principal, and constantly being reminded hey, this doesn't reflect you. This is a test, and tests are scary sometimes.
Abby, I think that's one of the things that we pride ourselves in Worthington schools is that support of each other. I don't even think you used the word failure, but you said I couldn't pass the test. What Jeff and I call that is perseverance. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. If I had to go back now, Jeff, and take a test with calculus. I remember one time at convocation, it might have been in 2019, I was asked to share the story about, I'll call it failure, my own failure in calculus class as a junior. When you're supposed to take it and understand it, I can't imagine now
having to relearn it
mm-hmm.
and teach content as such. So Abby, that's perseverance. So
grit.
Be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You definitely showed some grit through some. At the same time as you're trying to be the best teacher in the classroom for
mm-hmm.
your language arts students, you're then focusing on the math portion. And for those people who are listening, you might not know this, 4-9 language arts math, you do have to pass both portions of those tests, but
mm-hmm.
the math portion actually takes you through high school math. So it is kind of, wow, I didn't realize that. Mm-hmm. So, but for our 4-9 folks who have to pass portions of those tests, even though you only teach up to 9th grade, you have to teach and pass that math portion all the way through high school, which is tough.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Abby, you had 1 year of teaching under your belt.
Mm-hmm.
What will you do this year that maybe you didn't do last year?
What we were talking about, I think my biggest piece of advice is to create a running document from the start. And I treated last year kind of as a test run because I didn't know how to organize my desk, something that simple, or how to organize grading papers, where to store things. There are things that you don't think about when you're starting your classroom. My first period came in on the very first day of school. It was just a 20-minute period because we had an assembly later in the day. And as soon as they walked out, I had second period duty. And as soon as they walked out, I closed the door and I rearranged all of my desks because I was that did not work. So, and we were talking about, but I rearranged my room 8 times because I was my desk doesn't make sense here. And this isn't fluid for the kids to turn in things here. And yeah, it was positive for the kids because they were always, interested in something new. I just was trying to figure out what worked well for me. When we came back from Christmas break, we called it boot camp. And the kids were so pumped because they were we're doing boot camp, but it genuinely was me resetting expectations. We restarted completely. And I was this is where we're going to turn things in. This is how we're going to do this. This is how we're, and they loved it because they thought we were doing boot camp. But genuinely the second half of the year was night and day. Knowing that it's okay to start over at any point, I feel is good too. And having that running document, I wrote down the things that worked and the things that didn't work. And so going into this year, I just think it's going to be completely different. Yeah. And I'm excited about it.
And you and I talk about journaling. As you know, we give journals out to all of our new teachers every New Teacher Day. And this is a reminder to new teachers. You have a journal and reflect on what Abby just said and have that running kind of daily log of what worked and what didn't work and what you would change.
I think another thing that really worked well was kind of having a soft start to the class. Something that we did the second half of the year was the way we took attendance. I had a big bracket on my blackboard. The first time we did it was handy. And the way we would do attendance is that they would vote for their piece of the bracket. And that's how we did it every single day. And like they came in, they checked the bracket and they talked about it at lunch. And like they would come in and know that's what we were doing first. They would come in and sit down and like quiet because they wanted to start the bracket. And then once we did the bracket and attendance was done, like they were already ready to move on. So like that built relationships because we would kind of have like competition in the room and like I would be able to tell them what I liked and they told me what they liked.
It sounds like you give a lot of ownership to the students in your classroom. So maybe that's a great piece of advice to some of our new teachers is involve students in those conversations. Let them be a part of the learning and kind of figuring out what are the expectations that we have in our classroom, because when students are a part of that, they believe in it. And so their actions are as such. So that's great advice.
Take us out of the classroom now. Did you coach anything for us this year?
I did. I coached girls lacrosse, middle school girls lacrosse. We had kind of a tough season. It was really special, though, because all of the girls told us at the end of the year, our teams never felt this close. Or I coached with another Worthington employee, Sammy Skelly, and William Marshall. And I think just like having like those familiar faces too for all the girls, we were really close with them. We were having fun with them. We were playing with them. We were jumping in at practice. Like I felt like it was different, completely different than the classroom. I also didn't have any of them as students because they were 7th and 8th graders. They called me Coach Abby and would like come pop by in school and stuff like that. Like I felt like I could connect with them more on like a personal level. Coaching was like the highlight of my spring.
So talk to us about that balance. So new teacher, focus of lesson plans and classroom management and communication, all those things. And then you also took on a coaching role. Talk to us about that balance.
I think I work best when I like am constantly like go, go, go. And I know that's not everyone. I also am a big planner. I would say I'm a pretty type A person. So like having to-do lists every single day, I would have them sticky noted to my desk. This is what I need to get during second period when I had duty. This is what I need to get done during my lunch and plan. What I'm going to do tonight after I get home from practice. I know I'm going to be at practice from this time to this time. But then also like making sure that for an hour or two before bed that like I'm spending time with my roommate and eating dinner and watching a show and then like having time for myself. So I would plan out my days and that worked really well for me. And eventually once you get in a routine, you know what works best for you. I guess my biggest piece of advice is not forgetting to have that time for yourself too.
Routines are important for our students, but they're also important for ourselves.
Right. Definitely.
Right? We always talk about taking care of each other and taking care of ourselves. Has to happen first. So, all right, Jeff, we ready? It is rapid fire question time. Boy. Abby, are you ready?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. What is the grossest food you have ever eaten?
I feel like I've had my fair share of gross foods, but one food I just can't stand is coconut. So I guess anything
coconut
that I had.
That's an interesting one. What is the craziest fashion that you rocked growing up?
The knee-high Converse were big when I was in like 5th or 6th grade. I had like knee-high Converse socks. I had knee-high Converse laced all the way up to my knees.
Like Converse boots? They went up to your knees?
Like the Chucks.
Because you did say like knee-high like 5 times. But
right.
Like they literally went to your knees?
Yeah.
That's a lot of lace.
I don't know if I've ever seen that. What's one thing that you are unbeatable at?
I feel like I'm not unbeatable in anything. I feel like I take pride in the fact that like I could be beat in things and I feel like I can.
All right. What animal represents you?
A lion.
Why is that?
I would love to be a lion.
All right. What is your biggest pet peeve?
When car engines rev down the street when it's super loud for no reason, that makes me really upset.
What's your favorite board game?
Probably Sorry.
If you were forced to sing a karaoke song, what would you sing?
Don't Stop Believin'. But me and my friend in college did sing that one time for karaoke.
Do you have video or audio evidence of that?
I do.
Can you share that so we can maybe incorporate that in part of the podcast? We might have that being played.
Okay. Yes.
Did you kill it? In your mind, you probably killed the song?
Well, it was Monday night karaoke night, and the only people that were watching was like my group of friends.
Were they honest, or were they nice friends and said
they were being
good?
supportive, but my friend that I did it with, like we had 2 of the lowest voices in our friend groups. It was bad. It was not good.
What was your least favorite chore as a child?
Unloading the dishwasher.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that one either. Favorite TV show you ever binge watched?
Vanderpump Rules, which I'm watching right now.
Jeff, I think this clearly defines the age gap between us and Abby Smullen.
Because you and I have deer in the headlight look like I don't know who Lisa
I don't.
Vanderpump
I'm
is.
going to look it up.
The best part about it, though, is my intervention specialist, Happy, Heiss. She was
Who's
the one.
a proud graduate of the Worthington schools.
Yes. She was the one that told me to watch it. She was like, I think you would really like it. It's my favorite show ever. So,
Well, I'm going to have to talk to Happy. Happy is supposed to be mentoring you. My last question, and let's be honest, the most important question is the greatest cereal of all time.
I like Life cereal.
Ooh, I do like Life. You like Cinnamon Life too, or just you like both Lives?
I like both with bananas in it.
Well, Abby, thank you. It was great having a conversation with you today and learning a little bit more about you as a person and now as a second-year teacher in Worthington Schools. Thanks for sharing some of your advice to our new staff this year.
Thanks, Abby.
Thanks.
If you want to hear more, you can find us on our Worthington Schools website and on Spotify. A big thanks to Corey Carter and our communications team for making this podcast a reality. And of course, to our students at The Ohio State University in the communications department. The journey may not always be easy, but it'll definitely be worth it. Thanks for taking care of each other and have a great day out there.